The last National Geographic you will read in your time as a fourth grader, National Geographic Explorer, Passion for Parrots. Parrots in Peril. Coffee-colored water laps gently against our canoe. It's just before dawn and we're heading down to the Urubamba River in central Peru. The river winds through the western edge of the South America's vast Amazon rainforest. As the boatman guides the canoe toward the shore, I shoulder my pack. 10 minutes later, I am inside a tiny hut hidden in the trees. I look out to see a steep cliff of brown, red clay on the riverbank. The sun is just rising. I hear clay eaters coming. Blue-headed parrots are first. A flock swoops in on wings of brilliant green, squawking and screeching as they scrabble for footholds on the cliff. Each bird gobbles up a thumb-sized lump of clay. Next, the red and green and scarlet macaws arrive. Together, the birds make a rainbow of colors. A mystery solved. I'm a biologist, a scientist who studies living things. In my case, I study birds. I've come to Peru to learn more about rainforest parrots. To see the birds, I visit a clay lick on a riverbank near the village of Sepahua. This is a place where parrots eat clay. Hundreds of parrots come here every morning. Scientists started coming to Peru's Amazon rainforest to study parrots in the 1980s. That's when they first saw the clay licks. My first trip to Peru was in the early 1990s. I wanted to find out why the parrots ate clay. So I watched the birds carefully. I collected foods they ate and took samples of the clay they ate too. Then I ran some tests in a lab back in the US. What I found was that rainforest parrots eat lots of seeds, and many of the seeds contain toxins or poisonous chemicals. The toxins can be harmful if they build up in the bird's body. The clay prevents the toxins from getting into the parrots' bodies in the first place. Beauty and brains. I could spend hours watching parrots at a clay lick. They're some of the world's most beautiful birds, and they're never boring. Parrots are great flyers, but they are also incredible acrobats. They can climb trees, reach for fruit, and even hang upside down by a single toe. Parrots have strong family ties, and many probably mate for life. They seem to like each other's company, too. Their screechy, squawky voices fill the forest with a symphony of chatter. Some types of parrots are able to imitate human speech. The amazing thing is that they're not just making noise. When they speak, they are using sounds to communicate. There's no doubt parrots are smart. They are some of the world's most intelligent animals. Being brainy and beautiful, though, has created problems for parrots. People everywhere want them as pets. Worldwide, millions of wild parrots have been captured for the pet trade, and many parrots' populations are at risk. It's pushed some, such as New Zealand's kakapo, to near extinction. Parrots at risk. It took a while for the parrot hunters to reach the Sepahua clay lick. The rainforest is thick in this remote part of Peru. For centuries, the only people living here were the Machiquenga Indians. They sometimes killed parrots for food and even kept a few as pets, but their impact on the parrot population was small. Then outsiders began arriving. Miners came in search of gold, loggers in search of trees to cut down, and trappers in search of parrots. The trappers were not shy. They were eager to capture Peruvian parrots for the international pet trade, and parrots that gathered at the clay licks were easy targets. We scientists felt that something had to be done to protect the parrots and the clay licks. Parrot trappers take as many birds as they can, and we worried that clay licks would soon be empty. Would the parrots' chatter end? Taking action. Fortunately, conservation groups took up the challenge. They met with government officials in Peru and shared what scientists had learned. They explained that Peru's parrots could be wiped out completely. Some officials listened. Since parrots are safe inside national parks, the government expanded the parks inside the rainforest, which included several important parrot clay licks. For the clay licks that lie outside the park boundaries, conservation groups used a different strategy. They started ecotourism projects. World Parrot Trusts work closely with local communities, helping them build small lodges near some of the largest licks. Now tourists from all over the world come to stay at these lodges. Local guides take them to see parrots. Many people from nearby villages work at the lodges, and some help manage them. The money the lodges make from the tourists doesn't just go toward protecting parrots. It helps protect wildlife in thousands of acres of Peruvian rainforest. Parrot art. You won't find an ecotourism lodge near the Sepahua, though. The village is deep in the forest and too hard for tourists to reach. Still, the parrots at the Sepahua lick are protected. Where does the money come from to keep them safe? It comes from art. People in Sepahua make arpillaras. They are beautiful cloth wall hangings that show the life of the forest around the village. Look closely and you may see people, flowers, trees, and parrots, of course. Money made from selling the art pays for the guards to watch over the Sepahua clay lick and another clay lick nearby. More progress for parrots. The parrots I'm watching at the Sepahua lick are safe from trappers for now, but parrots are still legally trapped for the pet trade in other parts of Peru. Scientists and conservation groups are trying to change that. The government has limited the number of parrots that trappers can take. We're hoping that this is an important first step, which will eventually lead to a ban or stop all trade of the wild parrots. When it does, Peru will join countries like Indonesia and Mexico, which have stopped exporting parrots caught in the wild. Many countries have stopped importing them too. Europeans, for example, have been importing around 2 million wild birds every year, and in 2007 the European Union decided to ban that practice, which in turn ended almost all legal import and the export of wild birds. Since 1993, no parrot caught in the wild have been allowed to enter the U.S. either. The parrots you see in pet shops have been raised in captivity. Think hard before buying one, though. A parrot needs a huge amounts of attention and care, and some can live for more than 50 years. Living wild and free. The future is looking brighter for wild parrots worldwide. We still have a long way to go to protect them completely, but there's been progress in many places around the world. Some parrots are even making a comeback. In the 1980s, only a dozen or so small green echo parakeets survived. Today, their population is more than 300 strong. Progress in helping parrots proves that you may have heard before. People working together can make a difference. That's why the arpilleras are so remarkable. In a simple, colorful way, they connect a place as remote as Sepahua to the outside world. The arpilleras say, "See our parrots in the wild? See how beautiful they are." When you get the message, you understand. While wild parrots don't belong in cages. They belong in the forest, forever flying free. Parrot People. I wake, surrounded by darkness. At first I don't know where I am. Then I remember that I am far from home, in a village in Brazil, a country in South America. I have come to take pictures of rainforest people. Cold and wet, I cuddle into my blanket and dream about the adventure that awaits me. Little faces. A few minutes later the sun rises and I see many small faces peeking at me through my mosquito net. They belong to the children of the rainforest people, called Capayo. I smile at them. The village they live in, known as Kenjam. Clearly, the kids want to show me their home, so I grab my camera and follow them. Village views. When we enter the village, I notice that it's made of huts that stand in a circle. The roofs of the huts are made of palm fronds gathered from the rainforest trees. The Capayo consider their rainforest home to be a very special place because they find food, water, shelter, and medicine here. Around me I see other forest items. Leaves are laced together to make shelter and clothing. Sticks are carved to make tools, and turtle shells are used as bowls. As we walk through the village, a girl comes out of a hut. She is holding something red, white, blue, and yellow. It is a beautiful parrot known as a scarlet macaw. Fabulous feathers. The Capayo pluck parrot feathers to make kokai. These are headdresses the Capayo wear at the celebrations and show their status. They also wear them to frighten enemies. I see macaws hopping around the village. The Capayo keep their partly plucked birds as pets. I watch the girl take her pet into a nearby hut. She motions me to follow her inside. The hut is dark because there are no windows. As my eyes adjust to the darkness, I start to see shapes. On a table, I see a green macaw with bald spots where feathers have been plucked. An old man is sitting on the floor sorting the feathers. He puts the different colors into various piles. He will use the feathers to make a new headdress. Forest farewell. The Capayo are wonderful people, but I cannot spend much time with them. The next morning, I get up early to fly home. I think about the amazing things I've seen. Truly, the rainforest world of the Capayo is magical.